Inside this box, I have the latest answer from Adidas to the very popular Nike Mercurial series, that boot being the Adidas X Ghosted.1. Terrible name, incredible football boots. This, of course, being the laced variation, which bears a retail price of $225. And despite maybe looking a little bit ordinary, what Adidas has done here from a technical standpoint is truly impressive. And for the first time in a long time, they might actually have a real Mercurial killer. Now, regular viewers of this channel know that I'm not easily impressed. And when it comes to the Adi brand specifically, I've been known to criticize them for sometimes playing it a little bit too safe in regards to the design of their boots, and in the opposite direction, also criticizing them for putting out certain products that are maybe more gimmicky than they need to be. This boot suffers from neither of those criticisms, because what Adi have done here with the X Ghosted.1 isn't just new, isn't just high tech, isn't just really impressive, but it's a legitimately very good pair of football boots. And I don't want to criticize the Adidas X line since it came to be in 2015, but I think that some of the boots have been a little bit uninspired. This recaptures some of that magic of the F50 Adi Zero days, but with a bit of a twist, and truly is a legitimate competitor to the Nike Mercurial for what I think is the first time in a long time. With that said, we're gonna go over all of the details in today's video and basically cover everything that you need to know about these and hopefully help you decide whether or not you should go X or Mercurial this time around for your next pair of boots. We'll also, of course, take a look at how they fit and feel on feet. So if you're interested in learning more, please stick around, watch the entire review. And if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, I'll leave a little pop-up on screen, or you can click the first link down below. That's gonna take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $225 retail price. Also, if you guys do end up enjoying this video and perhaps would like to see reviews of the other boots in the new X Ghosted lineup, don't forget to support this one with a like and leave your suggestions down below in the comments. And if you're not subscribed already and don't want to miss out on weekly content on everything football boots, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Very quickly, as far as extras go, because this is a 0.1 model, it does not include a string bag inside the box. All you get are the boots, but they do include these really cool plastic Adi branded shoe horns. You can see the little Adidas logo there on the heel. Then it kind of has this spring thing in the middle to help with actually taking them out of the boots, and they fit totally perfect. I'm not sure why they included these, but they're really cool, and as you can see, really hold the shape of the boot very nicely. You don't need to have them in there at all times, but it is kind of a cool extra. As for the boots themselves, this is part of the X Ghosted series, which is a continuation of the X line. There's the familiar logo, this being the X Ghosted.1, which retails for $225 and would be the direct replacement for the X19.1, which was an excellent pair of football boots. Now, whenever you have a new model, you expect there to be some carryover elements, and there are a few of those this time around, but just very few. You'll find that the general side profile and shape of the boot isn't that different. They've lowered the front piece ever so slightly, which I'm a fan of, but it still features the signature kind of extended heel area. It does also feature the heel pillows in the heel liner that have been changed up a little bit, but it's a familiar element nonetheless. The lacing system, as you can see, is about the same depth and still pushed to the medial side. And then the heel counter, as well as the sole plate, is still called a speed frame, but the name is about all it has in common with the boot that it replaces. Every other element is entirely different, and honestly, for the better. If your complaint has been that the Adidas X line is too simple in comparison to what Nike has been doing with the Mercurial series, well, you're in luck, because these are extremely high-tech, complicated in a lot of ways, but all of these new elements really come together in a way that just makes sense and just works. Most importantly, you'll find that the upper does have a little bit of a textile appearance to it. It is kind of semi-translucent. You can see if I put my fingers inside the boots, you can see through the boots. And this is going to change from colorway to colorway. These being mostly white makes for, I guess, maximum translucentness, if that's a word. But you can see written down the side of the boot is fluoro skin. So that is the specific upper material found on the 0.1 variation. The Plus laceless model has something called Mirage skin, which is a little bit different than this. Either way, this really trends back towards the F50 Adizero days in terms of being a thin synthetic. There's nothing that is soft or mesh-like or even sock-like about the feel of this upper. In fact, when I put them on, I was actually a little bit surprised at how plasticky they feel, which I think plasticky is a way of describing a football boot that some people might view as a negative thing. But for those that, again, were fans of the F50 Adizeros as well as even the Mercurial Vapor while they were still Teijin synthetic, that's really what this reminds me of. If I had to compare this upper to anything else from a past football boot, it really reminds me of the Teijin synthetic found on the Mercurial Vapor 10. Super thin, super pingy, no extra padding whatsoever. And if you're really looking for that raw barefoot sensation on the ball, this does that extremely well. Touch aside, the fluoroskin upper as a whole is a technical marvel. I'm still kind of having a hard time understanding how they were able to achieve this. It's really impressive how minimalist the construction of this boot is. If you look really closely, you can see there's a very subtle grid pattern out of a textile material. And then if you look even closer, you can see that there is actually extra layers in certain spots, but it's so faint you can hardly see it. And it ultimately all ends up feeling like one single layer of material anyways. But then if you look at the inside of the boot, there is no internal liner. Basically, what you feel on the outside is what's happening on the inside, which really gives you this true one-to-one connection with the ball. Normally, when you have a synthetic material this thin, it's flimsy. You need to add other materials, typically in the liner, to add structure, not only to give you the necessary stability, but also to enhance the performance characteristics of what is being marketed as a speed boot. It has to be responsive. This has a remarkable amount of structure with the laces tied tight, despite being basically translucent. I know a lot of people, when they first saw these, they wanted to compare them to the 99 gram Adizero as well as the X 99.1, which we more recently saw. And those are all great boots in their own way. But from, I guess, a technical perspective, this is vastly superior and really a true evolution on that initial technology shown by Adidas that really feels well made. It's so cool to me how from the outside of the boot, you can actually see the internal layers. See that little black line underneath the lace holes? That's actually this extra black material that is strictly there to reinforce the lace holes themselves. If the boot didn't have lace holes, that material wouldn't need to be there. So it's really, really interesting how they were able to do this and really create the closest thing to a true one-piece, one-material upper that I think we've really ever seen from any football boot brand. Certainly a football boot that features a synthetic material rather than a knit. Across the top of the foot, you'll find that this boot does maintain a one-piece upper construction similar to the X 19.1 that it replaces. It also uses a dual lace hole setup, with the central portion of the upper being filled in with this very, very thin mesh material, matching the super thin sensation that you get across the rest of the foot. So you get a very uniform touch no matter what part of your foot makes contact with the ball. And then something that they have also changed is they've lowered this front piece. Normally it had a little bit of an extra extension that was totally unnecessary. It would cause a little bit of crinkling in this area of the boot. I still think that this comes up a little bit too high, and honestly I wish they would have put maybe a slit or something like that to make the opening of the boot be a little bit bigger, because this plastic part here at the front doesn't really stretch all that much. But they're also going for this whole vacuum fit effect with the X Ghosted series, where as you slide your foot in, you hear that sound of all of the air being pushed out of the boot as your foot fills in the space. You do kind of get it to a certain extent with this boot, but because of the lace holes, it's kind of not giving you that true vacuum sound, if you will. Also, for those that will ask why the Adidas logo is upside down, that's so when you're wearing the boots and you look down at them, the Adidas logo is right side up. Moving to the rear of the boot, you will find that it does maintain a low cut construction, a little bit of a V cut as well, kind of similar to what we saw on the Nemesis line. And for those that have been watching SR4U videos for a very long time, very reminiscent of the Under Armour Blur Carbon 3, for those that remember those. It does also have this extension piece at the back, which is kind of becoming a signature of the X series. And then the heel liner, again, very technical in terms of how they did this, where you can see they lined it in such a way where there's as little extra material as possible, simply just extra material and a little bit of padding in the heel area with those pillows that I think feel very comfortable. It minimizes the break-in time and really just makes for a super comfortable locked-in sensation in the heel. One of my favorite things on almost any football boot currently available, so I'm glad that that was maintained, although it doesn't have any grip dots anymore. It's just this soft synthetic suede material. And then internally, the insole, fully removable. I'll give you guys a quick look at that. It is the typical kind of soft liner that you'll find with a lot of Adidas boots. It has these little slits running through the heel as well as the midfoot, and then it's made from a single layer of this white foam, a little bit of a new pattern here, but for the most part the same insole that we're used to seeing in this line. Moving to the base of the boot, the sole plate and stud pattern is every bit as impressive as what they've done with the upper. It's still called a speed frame. You can see the logo right there on the heel counter, which has been redesigned ever so slightly. It's still a very similar shape, but it has a little bit more, I guess, stiffness to it because of this ribbed texturing that you have on both the lateral and medial side. Looks quite cool, feels quite solid, no complaints there. And you also find more of that reinforcement through the midfoot and heel area, really making this the most structured feeling speed frame or sprint frame that we've seen from the Adidas brand to date, which might sound like a bad thing because I think some people don't really like a super stiff feel, but it's by design because what they've incorporated here in the forefoot, as you can see, is carbon fiber, specifically a Carbitex insert. The reason why it's called that is Carbitex is actually a separate brand that Adidas is effectively licensing their technology to have in their football boot to really give you this incredible spring back effect. Something else to note about this sole plate is that it features a raised forefoot, which is similar to a sprinter spike, and effectively what that means is, just like it sounds, your forefoot sits a little bit higher than it normally would. Normally a sole plate is completely flat. What that effectively does is it puts you on your toes a little bit more so than past Adidas speed boots have. Again, similar to Mercurials, and it's not necessarily something that's going to make you run faster, but it is something that I think speed boot fans will really appreciate the feel of. You'll also notice that along the edges of the forefoot and midfoot, you have a little bit of a lip to the speed frame now, which again is more of a containment thing to give you as much of a locked in kind of connected sensation to the boot as possible. Also, this carbon fiber sole plate and the reinforcements through the forefoot really have this nice solid feel, reducing any kind of stud pressure, which is also really good. And for those that will ask if the carbon fiber could crack, obviously the boots are new at this point. They've only been out for a couple of weeks, technically not even, but it's too soon to say. I couldn't really say. It doesn't feel like it would crack. If you did this with a Nike carbon fiber sole plate back in the day, it would crack guaranteed. This feels extremely durable, and long term, I don't foresee there being any issues, and the energy return is ridiculous. As for the stud pattern, that has also been redesigned from the X19 generation. It's still the same general layout we're used to seeing across the Adidas brand. 4 studs in the heel, 6 studs in the forefoot, 1 support stud in the middle. But you'll see this time around they've gone for more of a true bladed design, which we haven't seen from the Adidas brand in quite some time. It also has a little bit of a chevron style stud where part of the chevron is a little bit lower. So it is kind of Mercurial-esque in that regard. We also see something somewhat similar on the brand new Puma Ultra 1.1. In general, it's more aggressive than what we've previously seen from the last several Adidas speed boots, and I don't think it's quite on par with the Mercurials in terms of really providing as much bite as possible, but it certainly comes a lot closer, and as a whole, still feels really, really good. If traction is important to you, these will not disappoint. Which brings us to the weight, where based on this boot being almost translucent, you'd expect these to be ridiculously light, and they're light, but they're not as light as you might expect them to be. In a size 9.5 US, you can see that the X Ghosted.1 weighs in at 7.2 ounces, the equivalent of 204 grams, which if we are comparing this to its main competitor, the Mercurial Vapor 13 Elite, that is technically a couple of grams heavier, give or take. It's very, very similar in weight, and honestly, if you're looking for that lightweight feel, you're gonna get it from both the Mercurial and the X. There isn't that much separation between them. So as you can see, I swapped out the stock white and gray laces, which it's kind of weird that they have a gray accent given that there are no gray accents on the boots, but I've changed them for some black reflective SR4U replacement laces, which match the black accents that you have in the Adidas stripe and the fluoro skin stripe here on the medial side of the boot. Plus, they're not going to get dirty and they just look quite cool. It's a great way of changing up the style of your boots in a very inexpensive way. If you're interested in some SR4U laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. There'll be a little pop-up on screen as well as a link down below in the description. So if you're interested in some for yourself, be sure to go ahead and check that out. On feet, the X Ghosted.1 feels fantastic. There's no other way to put it. I think it's a little bit surprising the first time that you put them on in regards to how different they feel versus so many of the textile and knit uppers that we have on most modern football boots these days. This is super thin. It moves with your foot really nicely. It doesn't have that plasticky or rigid sensation like a lot of thin synthetics used to have. So it feels like a nice improvement over what has been done in the past. But at the same time, it does feel like a little bit of a callback to the F50 Adizero days, which is definitely not a bad thing. You get a little bit of creasing in the upper, which is typical of thin synthetics, and it does flare a little bit at the sides of the ankle because of the one-piece construction. I would have maybe added a little slit right here and here, similar to other thin synthetics with a one-piece upper, but I'm not really unhappy with the design. The heel lockdown is fantastic. The comfort with those heel pillows is also really good. The feel of the Soleplate underfoot is fantastic. The raised forefoot really kind of rolls you onto your toes and on the balls of your feet ever so slightly, which is a great sensation. The gradual stiffness and just solid feel of the Soleplate underfoot is really nice as well. And as a whole, they just did a really good job. Everything seems to be well thought out on this football boot. As far as width and shape is concerned, it doesn't seem to be that different from the X19.1 that it replaces. So if you fit in those, you're definitely gonna fit in these. They're definitely not as tight fitting as Mercurial, so there's more width and more volume to them, to the point where I will say that these will fit most people. I will say though, that because of the one-piece upper construction and there not being a ton of stretch in this area, if you have really wide, high volume feet, you might have a hard time with actually getting these on. But once they're on, I definitely think that they will fit most people. And as far as sizing is concerned, I'm wearing these in my usual size 9.5 US, and the fit and the length is perfect. So if you're looking to order a pair for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. So in conclusion, can I recommend the Adidas X Ghosted.1? And the answer to that question is a resounding yes, very much so. This is a fantastic pair of football boots. And finally, I think a legitimate answer to the Mercurial line from Nike, where it's gonna make a lot of people question whether or not they wanna jump off the Nike bandwagon and get on the Adidas one. Because that's how the internet works. You're either on Team Nike or Team Adidas, there's no in between. Where this boot really separates itself from all of your other speed boot options is one with the upper. This is a true kind of thin synthetic feel that we haven't really seen from the speed boot category for a very long time. So again, fans of those older F50 Adizeros and Tajin synthetic Mercurials, you're gonna love the feel of this upper. And then two, this is a big one for me, this Soleplate and stud pattern feels fantastic. The innovation of this Carbotex insert, raising the forefoot ever so slightly, the energy return, the feel of it, the traction provided, the boot as an overall package really does come across as this cool combination of like old school speed boot elements and new school technology coming together to create a product that I feel like we've all been asking for a long time. It was just a matter of when somebody would actually make it, and the X Ghosted.1 feels like that product we've been wishing for. If you're a fan of older style speed boots and sick of sock boots, then absolutely you should buy the X Ghosted.1 because it's exactly what you're looking for. And for those that will ask if I'd prefer these over the Mercurials, the answer to that is yes. Yes, I would. Anyways, guys, that's it for this one. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to support it with a like. Again, if you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, you can click the first link down below. That's gonna take you to the review page on my website, where you'll find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes, where you'll be able to pick these up below their normal $225 retail price. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them down below in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get an answer out to you. And if you're not subscribed to the channel already, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the little bell notification so you get notified when the next new video goes live. You can find all my social media information linked down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.